Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Earthworm Jim. In the last part we started off the game and now we're in the Sega CD exclusive level, Big Bruty. Any future ports of the game that still included things from the Sega CD version omitted this level for some reason, and I have to imagine it's because this level's a little bit odd even for this game, which has some out there ideas. By and large, the main enemy of this level is the namesake, Big Bruty. And, first off, I believe he's named after one of the art directors for this in the sequel, like Tim Bruty or something like that. Big Bruty himself and these wasps are the only enemies in the level. With that said, only the wasps are normal enemies, because Big Bruty himself is completely invincible. Whatever you try to do to him, he'll just bounce right off of him. But we need to get past him in order to progress through the level. So what you have to do is get so close that he smells you and starts attacking and chasing you, and then usually jump over him in some way and end up going the opposite direction. Occasionally, he'll respawn at the various points in the level he does spawn at, so you do need to use him to also solve puzzles, such as placing him on this particular seesaw to launch you up. You need to get uncomfortably close to Broody, though, in order to have him actively start chasing you, to the point of, I'd rather they just had a mechanic where you could shoot him to have him start chasing you. It's annoying. Additionally, there are times where he'll hit something and he'll just split up into a bunch of teeny mini Broodies. I think we're about to have that happen here. Those you can destroy, namely with the homing rockets. But yeah, this level, it's one of those cases where it's an interesting concept, but I feel between the execution and stuff, they probably could have done more interesting. Plus, this level, I'm not a fan of the music in because it's just atmosphere sounds. As much as I have problems with Tommy Tallarico himself as a person, especially with the, I think the ColecoVision thing he's been trying to do recently, I have to admit, usually I can at least bop to his music. This is not so much a case. In general, I'd say this game's soundtrack is good. The quality of it does depend, I feel, on the version. Because I think Tommy Tallarico can write some pretty catchy music. I liked a lot of the bops that there are in this in the PlayStation Spider-Man games that he wrote. In particular, there's only really 2 tracks I actively remember from this game at any time that aren't just like the here's the stage loading song or things like that. And even then, a couple of songs in this game I think are just outright based off of, if not are, classical music. Like back in What the Heck, obviously, that was Night in Bald Mountain. That was the name of that song. I forgot what the name of that classical piece was last part, but at least the later half was like, you know, still original stuff because it was elevator music more or less, which I think is really funny. Also, had this been the version of the game I grew up with, I probably would have been terrified of this level, I won't lie. Something about Broody just is unnerving, especially given the thing I should also mention about Broody. He's instant kill if he touches you, he just eats you in one bite, and well, that's a game over. So be careful, don't get too close to him. And it's funny looking back, because I distinctly recall, I think the furthest I got into this game as a kid was maybe What the Heck. Because this game can be a little bit unrelenting at times with its difficulty curve, as either enemies can combo you pretty quickly, or the stage design can do that for you, or the stage design will just kill you anyway. Because I distinctly recall, when I watched my brother play this growing up, he consistently got to the end of the next level, but then a certain infamous section just kept on killing him, because it is definitely a level gate in its own regard, whether or not it's meant to be one of those things where, hey, we need you to make this more difficult so we can increase rental sales or something. Hell if I know. Also, a bit of an odd thing about this level. While this game does pretty atypical things for its levels at times anyway, they usually end with some sort of notable section that's unique to it. This level just kind of ends, and it's one of the only 2 levels in the game that really does that. And the other one's a notable bonus level, so this is very unusual. Like, we're done. So, hey, I'll take it. And with that, now we're back onto another form of Andy's Asteroids. Again, all future variants of this are being sped up just to save us some time in the long run, so I don't have any oddly lengthy or short parts in comparison to the others. Best thing I could say, just If you need to go for the orbs to try and get to continue, do it. But if you are feeling like you're going to lose the fight and don't want to fight Psychro, go the other route and just focus on avoiding the asteroids and getting the boosts. And with that, we're on to probably my least favorite level in the game. I know a lot of people hate this level for different reasons. Welcome to Down the Tubes. Now, people don't really hate the first half of this level so much. It's the latter half that people usually bring up as the troublemaker. But this is, by and large, our water level. And because of that, we have very tight corridors, enemies that can just punch the shit out of you. My biggest advice early on is to take your time because the enemies patrolling the halls can and will surprise you if you're trying to outrun the screen, so to speak. And whenever you see the bubbles in the ceiling, jump up so you can just hide from them in the ceiling, period. This is definitely one of those games where rushing, unless you're a speedrunner who knows what they're doing, is just going to get you into more trouble than it's worth, so take your time and walk carefully. Because otherwise, you're gonna die. Also, I just realized I forgot to read the bio for the last level. Big Broody. What's a big Broody, you say? You'll know for sure when you see one, that's for sure. Then all you have to do is figure out how to get by him without ending up like a big piece of chewing gum. Here's a hint. Use his enormous weight and momentum to your advantage. If you do get past him, you still better be careful. You won't want to get stung. Very little description there, but okay. And down the tubes here, Bob the Goldfish knows that Earthworm Jim's suit can make him ruler of the world, maybe even the universe. Controlling the drone cat minions in his underwater lair, Bob will use his servants to find you wherever you hide, high or low. Don't let the size of Bob's kitten guards fool you. They're just as powerful as the cats. Hamsters galore. That last part in particular seems like it comes out of nowhere until you realize that you have actual hamster mounts that you can mash the button with to make them jump. They're the only things that can destroy some of the cat minions in this stage, because those things are outright invincible. With that said, it's time for the major mechanic at this level. As soon as we jump up here, submersible travel. The number on the top right is your air meter. If that runs out, I forget if you die immediately or if it's just a health drain. It's probably the former, though, from memory. And this thing is made of glass, so you can't bump it against the walls too often, otherwise it'll break and you'll die instantly. When you're controlling it, though, you're less so controlling the submarine itself. You're controlling the boosters on either side of it, and you press the button to make it go forward in the direction they're currently facing. But you don't really want to hold the button down, as that makes you move a bit too quickly for your own good, and you'll probably just bump into some walls. The best strategy I can give for you is to just tap the button intermittently to make minor boosts at a time, and then correct yourself as need be. With that said, there are going to be times where you're going to want to hold it down a bit longer just to gain some speed, because the timers can be kind of strict on these. With that said, they're not the be-all, end-all timer, as in some sections you'll notice there's like little things jutting out on the walls to the left of you, like this one actually. If you get the little hook on the left side of your submarine, I guess AirPod is a better way to describe it, directly hooked into that, your air will recover at least up to the 30 seconds it is to start. In some cases, it can even get boosted beyond that, I think. Need to be a bit precise with it, though, because you need to directly get yourself into that little loop. Yeah, it's up to the 30 seconds. 30 seconds is, by and large, more than enough time for most of the sections, as long as you're taking your time, but as long as you're being safe, I feel is a better way to phrase it, actually. As if you're taking things too slowly, well, you're probably going to die more times than people who are rushing. Because at least people who are rushing can see the level design and potentially react to it in time, maybe. You do need to be careful, though, because the collision here is also a little bit weird. Because the boosters themselves don't count for the submarine's, like, hitbox. But the rest of it does, and sometimes the terrain itself is a little bit betraying of when it'll hit you or not. Like, in some cases, I feel like me just barely touching the top there should have bounced me off and potentially damaged my craft. But it didn't because reasons. This is where I saw my brother get game overs the most as a kid. I do not know, by the way, how you're supposed to avoid this cat. The only thing I can figure is that maybe you're just supposed to get him enough health. Which, that's a little rude, because that thing does about 40 damage, but oh well? I swear there's also sometimes an extra life in that other thing to the side there, but eh. And that's technically the end of the main level, because they wanted to give you a proper checkpoint. Because now we're heading into Tube Race, which is by and large the same stage. Just a lot more annoying for reasons we'll go into in a few moments. Also, I'm not going to go directly into detail with every single one because there's a surprising amount of them. But Earthworm Jim does have a notable amount of cheat codes that differ depending on the version of the game you're playing, like refilling your health, infinite plasma gun, level selects and all that. The way it's almost always done is by pausing the game and then pressing some sequence of buttons on the controller, like A, B, and C on the Genesis controller, for instance. I think the level skip outright is like A, B, B, A and C, B and C, B and C, and A and C here in the Sega CD Genesis version, which will just skip you to the next level. And you'll always know you did a cheat code right, because Jim will just scream cheater. But now we're in hell. Welcome to the tube race proper. You might notice the timer is going a little high here. You have 99 breath seconds to reach the end of this stage. Sort of. You can, I believe, gun it to the end on one bar, but you don't want to do that because they hide a recharge about halfway through, hidden through a wall. This is the ultimate test, I feel, in Reflex's partial patience but partial rushing in the game, because you need to worry not only about the game's collision just being a little wonky, but you need to be both quick and careful, which is an oxymoron in a game like this where a few mess-ups will kill you. It's rough. This is where I saw my brother die a lot playing this game on our Genesis back when I was a kid. And to be honest, if I had played this game more regularly, I probably would hate water levels a lot more in video games. And I don't get me wrong, water levels can have problems, but I'll generally still enjoy them more than the average person would. This would have scarred me. Just outright. Going back to cheat codes real quick, the most notable one here in the Sega CD version is that there was a debug mode left in this, the Genesis, and the Super Nintendo version. The way you get to that is you pause the game and you press, I believe it's A and B, C, C, A, B, 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 and C in that sequence. Where you'll see a picture of all the Shiny Entertainment developers, and then it'll just bring up like a RAM menu and all that. The notable cheat options you can do there are cheat mode, which is invincibility. Start on a level where it's level select. Freeze ability, which for some reason just prevents the game from dimming when you pause. And a proper map view mode, which is like how the map view mode works kind of in the Sonic 3 debug, where you'll move the camera around and you can press A to spawn Jim where the camera is. But yeah, by the way, that was the extraordinarily well-hidden air refresh. The fact they hide that like that makes me think that they almost just put that there to make a joke out of it, because people will just be rushing through it, and I find that kind of rude. This level is rough. I'd argue it dampens the quality of the game by a notable percentage, because it's just such a slog to try and get through, but also just a pain in the ass. It's at the very end of the stage, too, because once we hit this, there's Bob the Goldfish. He's a goldfish, so hit him in any regard, and the stage is over. That's... No. Anticlimax on top of an annoying latter half. This level's not fun. With that said, if you're playing the Sega CD version and you hate Tube Race, you're in luck, because you are the only version of the game that has an active way to skip it that's not the active level skip. What you have to do is, early on in the Tube Race section, where we found this hamster, you need to jump into the back over and over again of his little cage, and you'll clip, sort of, it's not meant to be clipping, it's an actual hidden passageway, back here to where this extra life is, which leads to a bonus round. This bonus round is a Sega CD exclusive version of Andy Asteroids. Psychro is in it, but there's notably no asteroids. It's just a bunch of the blue continue givers and a whole metric shitload of speed ups. This is meant to just be a free pass, because I guess they realized everyone hated Tube Race. Pretty easy way to get a continue, though, because you could probably easily get upwards of 70 plus... I forget the name of those blue things, but yeah. The only reason I'm going to what the heck there is because I did that on a run where I was going for the other endings that were added to the Sega CD version. That would normally take you to the next level, it's not a problem. With that said, let's use this opportunity to show off the Psychro boss fight that happens if you lose one of those races. He's, pretty uneventful despite being kind of the star of the manual besides Jim. He'll fly all over the place attempting to hit you with that hook. but you can easily just shoot him to stun him and then hit him with your whip to do some active HP damage. He can sometimes be a bit hard to hit just because he'll be out of reach, because he's floating around so willy-nilly. But he's not a challenging boss fight. I guess it's technically because Anti-Asteroids is considerable a bonus stage more than an actual stage, but it's a little rough either way. With that, we're on to the proper Anti-Asteroids that plays after you access, or after you end down the tube / tube race, which is more of this stage type. Yep. I think what kind of harms these stages in the long run, even though I think the music here is absolutely catchy, they don't really vary in either way. They just start placing more asteroids and start placing the speed-ups in more dickish locations relative to them, where you need to be kind of ballsy in order to get through in order to beat Psycho and avoid that mini-boss. But now we're on to my second or third least favorite level in the game, Snot a Problem. It's a mini-boss rush where we got this guy made of Snot, who you need to bump into the wall. However, he can also bump you into the walls, and you can even do it to yourselves. Occasionally, he'll spin around, and that's his main attack to try and knock you into the walls, which you want to avoid because those bars on the right and left side of the screen are your actual HP bars for this stage. The more frayed your rope is, the closer you are to getting knocked down to the Snot below, which is an instant kill. Additionally, an instant kill, in the Snot pit below, there's I guess a Snot piranha indicated by that eyeball. If that thing chomps on you, you're just dead instantly. You press the attack button to kind of do a shoulder check into him. That's your main attack. It's your equivalent to his little spin. If you can mash it well enough while you're against the wall, you can get a good amount of hits in pretty quick. But as you can see, there are a lot of rounds to this. I think there's 3 rounds period. And in the third round, the AI of the enemy gets a noticeable aggression increase, and it becomes really annoying to actually win if you're not playing it super defensively. And because of that, it takes a while, so I'm speeding it up. It's just the same thing over and over again. This is repetition, yes, but I feel like it doesn't really impact anything in the long run. It's a boring stage. Unique, yes, and I like the animation when he stretches like that, but it just feels like it's meant to be different, and I'm not a fan of that. With that said, it's not a problem's bio. Bungee jumping is scary enough without Major Mucus trying to bash you into the walls, but that's exactly his plan. As your bungee cord gets thinner and thinner, your life hangs on a few measly threads, but that's not all. Mucus Phlegmbrain is waiting for you to get too close to the pool of snot or fall in. He's waiting for lunch. You know, it's not often I say a manual gives me flashbacks to Booger Man, but this manual gives me a lot of flashbacks to Booger Man, and that's not a good thing. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 3, we're heading into level 5. See you guys then.